This video is going to cover the construction of a steel frame shed at our house. It's also basically just going to cover all the steps starting from the earthworks all the way to the final building being in place. And the first thing to be aware of if you're looking at building a steel frame shed or any shed on your property or garage is the council requirements and what you really want to do to try and avoid doing resource consents. So there's probably a lot more than I'm going to be able to cover here, but I'm going to just make a few notes about the things that affected us where we're in the location that we're building this double garage / workshop shed, and then basically hopefully that'll get you started in the right direction to find the information that is relevant to your site. So there are two very important things that are basically required for any site, doesn't matter where it goes. One of them is going to be the height of the final shed in relation to boundary, and the other one is what the Kiwis refer to as yards or yard sizes. And so let's start with the height in relation to boundary. It's pretty easy to understand. So in the background there we have the boundary fence. It's a bit rickety, but it's there, and so you can see where it is. Now, one of the things that the earthworks or the concrete contractors will want to do before they get started with the shed basically is they'll want to check the boundary pegs, which are up there on the hill and down there at the end of the drive, basically to make sure that fence is in the right place, so that they're not building too close to the fence. Okay, so let's talk about height in relation to the fence line, the boundary, and that's pretty straightforward. And in this case, that was absolutely no problem, because the distance between the side of the shed here and the boundary over there is 10 meters, 10.2 meters. So generally height in relation to boundary means you're going to draw a line straight up on the boundary and then curve it in towards your section at 45 degrees, and that line can't cut any part of your proposed building. If you wanted to go that way, you could get resource consent to get around these things, but it's just extra money. Okay, the second thing are what they call the front yard or the rear and side yards of the section. For these numbers vary depending on what type of property you're on. So they're different for rural and they're different for residential, and where we are it's labeled as countryside living, which means that we have to have 10-meter yards everywhere. So that means that the distance between the boundary and the side of the shed has to be more than 10 meters. If it would have been very nice to bring the shed a meter or so towards the left there, but that would have been thousands of dollars extra in resource consent, and also you would have to get the permission of whoever the owner of the next door site is. So there's a few hassles there. So the things you want to look at is height in relation to boundary, and make sure you're within you're outside of your yard areas. If you're outside of those, things get pretty easy. Okay, so we might as well quickly carry on and have a discussion about the steps that are going to happen. So the first step that will happen is you'll put in the application to the council, or generally if you're doing it this way, which means you just get the shed people over and they basically do all the paperwork for you. They put in the application to council and they're acting on your behalf, and in general at the moment it takes 20 working days to get a building consent out of the council, and that's pretty much how long it takes. You'd be very lucky if you get it any quicker, but generally they're limited to having to do it in 20 working days, and so that's what it usually is. So we started off on the section with a relatively flat piece of earth here. The house is over there, and it was relatively flat anyway. So they put in the application to the council. 20 working days later, the building consent arrived, and the first guy who's going to show up at your property is the Earthworks guy. And what the Earthworks guy's responsibility is to scrape all the topsoil and metal and stones and whatever is there from the proposed location, generally about 1 meter on each side, around the sides, bigger than the actual slab that you're going to want. So he's going to scrape it clean with a digger or a scraper. In this location we also needed to cut a little bit of the corner away there, as you can see, and so that was fairly quick. It was only probably an hour to cut the corner away, load it on top and flatten it off. So it was pretty easy to do, pretty fast. And then once you've got a nice flat pad where it's going to go, the Earthworks guy also gets his truck and brings in as much as he needs, basically, of this gravel stuff to create a 100mm compacted base at least on the whole thing. Now that also some bits we had to go a little bit more, so you can see on the corner here we had to build it up a little bit more, and on the far side there it was pretty much 100mm. Not too expensive at that point, so that was maybe $1,000 or so for the guy with the digger for a day, and the truck and the deliveries and everything. So that part of it is not too bad. Then the next step is the concrete contractors show up, and they basically start out by framing around the outside 150 high or 150 above the level of the gravel, which is going to be, so they do a pretty good job of making sure that's all straight and square. And then the next step is that they drill the pile holes, because these steel frame sheds have 4 pillars along each side, or this size one does. So these are going to be it's 9 meters deep, so they're 3-meter bays, and so you're going to have 4 posts on each side. So they drill underneath. See if I can get into here. Oops. There we go. So they basically get a post hole borer, and they put some holes in. I believe these ones go at least 300 below the actual bottom of where the concrete is going to start. So you're going to have in total about 450 mils of concrete on those, and those holes, or those piles, are where the actual frame is going to get dyno bolted into, so it'll be pretty solid. Then the next step is they bring in a few truckloads of sand, and the sand gets spread out and plate compacted in underneath this. And then so the next step then, after they've compacted the sand and they've got it nice and smooth and flat, is they lay down quite thick polythene. I'm not sure what the micron value of it is, but you can feel that it's very thick, and quite thick polythene. And then obviously on top of the polythene you've got your reinforcing mesh, and around the outside as well, not sure how well it shows up pretty well, you've got these probably about 1/2 inch reinforcing steel around so two rows of that around the outside as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So in the meantime, you can see the little plastic cups are all upside down. That's just so that the reinforcing steel holds down the polythene until they come back. Now at the point when the concrete contractor is finished, the next step is that they call the council guy, and the council guy shows up in his little car, and he does a few checks and measurements and stuff, and then he gives them the okay to pour the concrete. Now I believe, apart from the final inspection, this is the only part that the council actually checks. So that's it for today. I think I've covered pretty much everything. Hopefully haven't left anything obvious off. So yeah, we'll come back when the concrete has been poured, and we'll detail the steps from then onwards. Okay, so it's about a week since the last video. This is concrete pouring day. It's a Saturday, very nice weather we've got predicted for the whole week, which is great. And the concrete guys showed up about an hour or so before the actual concrete truck, and just put in some support pegs for all the bits of beams running around, and also turned all the little top hats underneath the reinforcing mesh up the right way. And yeah, about a minute ago or so the concrete truck showed up, and so now we're starting to pour, and I'll keep an eye on it, and we'll come back a little bit later when they're busy screeding it. Okay, this is truck number 2, and you can see what they're doing is they're actually screeding and smoothing as they go, which is working quite nicely. It's starting to take a bit of shape now. Okay, after about 2.5 concrete trucks and 2 or 3 hours of work, it's the whole slab is down now, and it's all been screed, and it actually looks quite nice. And what's going to happen now is the concrete guys have disappeared for a few hours while they let it set for a little bit, and then they are going to come back and use a power polisher type machine to actually just polish it nice and smooth and flat, but looking quite good for now. Okay, just a quick update. It's now Tuesday afternoon, and the concrete was done on Saturday, and as you can see, it's already had some use with the kids riding their bikes on it. So just something I forgot to show with the last video, because they do it at the end when the concrete is almost busy setting, is they cut these rebates into the concrete, and that's about 15 to 20 millimeters deep, and runs the length of where the roller doors are going to be, as well as here where the personal access door is going to be. And the objective of the rebates is that if you get wind and rain coming from the front, they don't push straight into the shed. There's basically just a little gap where the water can collect anything that does manage to blow under the shed. The other thing that showed up today is the kit set from the manufacturer. So if we look at these quickly, what I see just looking at it is down the bottom there you can see the cladding, the metal cladding for the sides of the building, which should match the color of the house like that. And you can also see some clear roof cladding, and also down there is the darker cladding for the roof, which you're going to see better on the other side. We also have some downpipes. These ones are downpipes for the gutters. We have some flashings. That's the apex flashing of the roof. There's a couple of rolls of this white building paper stuff, which is going to go on the roof underneath the cladding. And here you can see the beams for the floor as well as the roof. And I assume these ones here, which they seem a bit smaller, I think they're going to go around where the doors are. And these here are I think they're called girts. They are the ones that the cladding on the side of the building are going to screw into those ones. So yeah, got the kit delivered today, and if all things go to plan, it sounds like the builders should be showing, or the concrete people are going to show up first thing tomorrow to put some cuts into the concrete, and then the builders should show up just after that and start assembling the frame, in which case I'll start doing a few more videos per day basically, so the whole process is kind of captured. Okay, well, things are starting to take shape out here on the building site now. So we are at Wednesday, concrete was poured on Saturday, and things are going pretty quick now. So I've put up some pictures just before this to show the progress. I don't want to do too much videoing with the builders working, kind of annoying them and getting in their way. But they're all for lunch. I'll do a quick catch up. So they started off by assembling the 4 rafters for the roof that go across. And then the next step is they assembled all 4 or they assembled the walls on the two sides, which basically just means taking the pillars and attaching the rafter brackets to the top and also the girts to the side. You'll see there's a bit of an offset on the gird at the end. That's for the window at the end that's going to go into there. And you'll also see in the shot there, they haven't fully attached the bracing yet, but you can see the bracing hanging down on both sides there. So they'll brace at least one bay on each side, one there and one on the far side there. And yeah, basically the base cleats, I think they call them, just get dyno bolted into the concrete. I'll show you here. So we're basically dyno bolted into the concrete there and then connected with high tensile bolts to the frames. And yeah, so it's all kind of starting to get there slowly. Unfortunately, the rain has now started, so I'm not sure how that's going to affect. I don't think they'll be able to finish tomorrow. If it's rainy and too windy, it makes the working with the sheet metal quite difficult. So we'll see how things go. But yeah, starting to look quite good here. Okay, so here we are at the end of the first day with the builders here. We've got all the framing up, including all the roof, trusses, all the girts, all of that kind of stuff. We've got the two spaces for the roller doors are pretty obvious. Over here, where there are 3 girts in the way, there's actually going to be a personal access door as well, but these girts will get cut away when the door is delivered to site, probably tomorrow, I would assume. Yeah, so we've got the whole frame up, and basically the back and one of the sides is clad. So going by this, I would expect either finish tomorrow or possibly the day after, depending on how the doors and that kind of stuff go. But looking quite good. Okay, so here is the shed all done finally. The builders were off for a few days while we had pretty bad weather, and so they've popped back this morning and finished off the roof, and you can now clearly see where the clear panels in the roof are, which I've left they asked whether I want them to remove the building paper under the clear sheets, and I thought, no, we're getting enough light through, and I'd rather avoid the condensation, and so I've left those. You can also see up there they've got the extractor going, which appears to be working nicely, and yeah, it's not quite as they left it. I quickly hosed and broomed the floor, which is quite nice and level. The water doesn't particularly run in any direction, so the whole thing is very reasonably level. And yeah, standard New Zealand and / Australia steel frame shed come together quite nicely. I'll just quickly show you. So the windows and doors are very reasonable quality. They're all nice, aluminium units, positive locking. So very nice doors and windows all round, which I think they've pretty much given up on shed quality stuff, and they just use domestic doors and windows. So nice. There's some keys taped there. Everything working nice and smooth. Beautiful. And we'll put down one of the rollers to show the color from the outside. Okay, should stay there. Okay. Oops. Come this way. So the shed itself is like a beigey cream. I think it's called smooth cream, and the all the doors and flashings and things are new denim blue, and then I've made the roof quite a dark color as seen on the photos. But yeah, that's pretty much it. No real problems. From the builders stopping here for the first time until they were completely finished would be about 2.5 days, maybe 2 days if they have really good weather and they work long days. But I'm fairly happy that I didn't actually attempt this myself, because it would have taken weeks, and I don't think I would have achieved the same fit and finish everywhere. These guys just absolutely know what they're doing. This is all they do, so they're very fast, very accurate, and yeah, everything comes together quite nice. This will probably be the end of this video. What I have to do next, of course, is you can see there's no downpipe on the end of the 2 gutters there. The reason is that I've got the water tank here, which I still need to do a concrete pad for that behind the shed. So I'll put the water tank behind the shed, and then I'll plumb the downpipe straight into that. But yeah, all done. If there's anything that anyone would like to see particularly done or anything like that, or ask any questions, go ahead. If I might have a picture showing something that it was a bit tricky. Unfortunately, I didn't want to annoy the guys by videoing every step of their assembly, but I did see most of it. So if there's anything that anyone needs a bit of advice with, I can certainly see if I can give that advice. Cool.